Japan, 1467. A dispute over who would rule the shogunate of Japan sparks an era of conflict that would rage until 1615. During this period of great turmoil, all sorts of powerful generals and warriors came to the fore. Men and women who would attempt to seize power over Japan in the vacuum created by the shogunate's collapse. Men like Nobunaga Oda, Yusuke Kenshin, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Takeda Shingen, and dozens of others. But when things began to look their bleakest, when it looked as if war would devour Japan for the rest of its days, a great hero emerged, one who would unite the lands of Japan under one banner and bring about an era of peace for the land. That man was named Rance! A foreigner who just so happened to be on a hot spring vacation in Oware, Rance would be handed control of the Oda clan by Nobunaga Oda himself, and would go on to unite Japan under the banner of Oda and... wait a minute here. I don't think this Japanese history book is accurate. Oh well. I touched on it briefly in my Big Bang Age video, aka my first ever video, that Sengoku Rance was the first eroge game I ever played that I really got into and made me realize that the genre of eroge games were more than just games you played to fap. I also briefly touched on the Rance series history, but if you missed that, let me give you a brief refresher. The Rance series of games is a long-running series of hentai titles developed by Alice Soft. The series had its humble beginnings all the way back in 1989 with Rance, The Quest for Hikari. This series is older than most people on YouTube. The Rance series encompasses over 15 titles, but today, if it wasn't obvious already, I'm here to focus on one title in particular, Sengoku Rance, the 10th game of the franchise. The Rance series follows, of course, the titular hero himself, Rance, a craven, degenerate, psychopathic warrior who hungers for glory, good times, and has the ever so noble goal of fucking every woman across the continent of the Rance world. This goal leads him to the lands of Japan, an archipelago that's, well, essentially just our Japan, but with a fun, fantastical twist to everyone from the Sengoku Jidai era. Sengoku Rance is a hybrid RPG and turn-based strategy game. A majority of your time will be spent on the battle map, leading the armies of Oda against the other clans of Japan. You'll also have access to some dungeon diving, treasure finding, various quests to clear, as well as clears for your companions to make them stronger in battle, and in dungeons as well. Along with the most fun part of running any empire, shaking your territories down for money to fuel it. The game begins with you squashing a rebel insurgency in the Oda clan, and insurgency spurred on by the Ashikaga house. You crush it easily, and that's where the game proper begins. From there, Sengoku Rance is your oyster. You're free to conquer Japan in whatever way you wish. Which, actually, just like Big Bang Age, is incredibly daunting. 18 clans of incredibly deadly warriors with 21 different troop types and all sorts of crazy generals to lead them. By now you're probably thinking, why the hell would I waste my time playing a complicated H game like this? Learn mechanics? Classes? I just want everything handed to me. Well, if that's gonna be your attitude, you can go play the Sagara family, you fucking loser. If that's not your attitude, well then, I welcome you to an incredibly fun, engaging strategy game with all sorts of subtleties, humorous character moments, and wacky H game action. Honestly, Sengoku Rance is better than a majority of the strategy games I've played in the last 10 years. It's unironically up there in my top 10 favorite strategy games of all time, alongside Warcraft 3, Command & Conquer Generals, and Medieval 2 Total War. Obviously very high praise coming from me. But you're not here to listen to me worship this game, you're here to listen about Sengoku Rance and potentially even conquer Japan on your own. But if you're gonna walk the walk, you gotta talk the talk and know all of your soldiers first. Much like Big Bang Age, almost every character you run across, whether they be simple generics who have roughly 5 faces that are changed slightly between all of them to make them seem different, major generals who are loosely based on major historical figures from the Sengoku Jidai. Though, since I wasn't there, I can't actually confirm that Tokugawa Ieyasu wasn't a raccoon dog, or that Yusuke Kenshin wasn't a beautiful woman either. Back to my initial point though, majority of these characters are capturable in battle, and subsequently recruitable in either jail or via in-game events. Thankfully, loyalty is no longer an issue for every character in the game. Once you get a commander in your army, barring a few exceptions or death on the battlefield, they will stay in your army till the end of the game, or if you kick them out. A welcome relief, for sure. You only have to worry about leveling Rance's relationships with them so you can give them special skills or boost their already existing skill sets so they may go out and perform violence on behalf of the Oda clan. Each general commands a unit of soldiers that serve different functions on the battlefield. Throughout the course of the game, you will be able to command up to 13 different unit types. Foot soldiers are your most basic soldier. They can attack, but most importantly, form a wall against the enemy so they can't actually hurt your important units. Samurai are your high offense units who exist to break enemy lines and do as much damage as possible. Archers are basic ranged units whose strength lies in the fact that they can fire from the back line. Mikos are similar, but are able to cast heal and call upon divine winds to commit slaughter of the enemy.
By the power of Gaia, the power of the wind!
Monks are fucking useless. So useless, in fact, the only useful monk in the game is only useful because she gives her actions to actually useful warriors. Tacticians are critical for their friendly army buffs, ability to debuff the enemy army, and are a pretty solid range striker too. Diviners are your Japanese mages. They can cast shield, pretty useful. They can also cast violence, also very useful. Ninja are flexible units that can be front or back line, but are probably most useful because of their ability to flip a coin, and if it's heads, instantly kill an entire enemy unit. Good news. Bad news, the enemy can use it too, and it's always heads when they do it. Musketeers bring the power of gun to the battlefield, being rank 1 shooters who do catastrophic amounts of damage to their target in exchange for basically only ever having one action. Cavalry are chicken riding maniacs who do tons of damage and can strike the backline of your forces from wherever. These are the native Japanese forces, but thanks to Rance's long history across Elysis and Zeth, 2 lands in the universe, he can call in additional forces from overseas to aid in his conquest. These include mages, who are similar to diviners but use the lore of fire to roast legions of men and women. Knights are basically smacked up samurai, and cannoneers shoot hand cannons. What else is there to say about them? You'll run across some other units too, peasants, oni, and demon artillery, but you just fight those, and there's no way to recruit them, at least not to my knowledge. Why would you want to recruit peasants anyway? This isn't Heroes of Might and Magic 5. Each of these units, except the monk, have their uses on the battlefield and derive their combat stats from their general. Stats can be boosted by leveling up or by reading shitty doujins. You also have a collection of other stats like search, negotiation, and construction, which are related to events in-game or stuff like recruiting prisoners into your army. Really, negotiation and search are the only 2 super important ones, so just worry about those 2. Negotiation for bringing prisoners and recruits into your army, and search for finding dungeons, treasures, and other useful stuff. Oh yeah, in addition to fighting on the battlefield, your soldiers will also dungeon dive and search of various treasures, as well as to level up to be stronger for the coming challenges Japan brings your warriors. That covers almost everything you need to know about battlefield mechanics, so you now may ask, well, how does the game flow? Well, each turn you have action fans to spend on, well, actions. You start with 2, but you definitely need at least 3 to get things done, so I recommend following the 13-turn third fan guide if you're gonna play this game. I'll link it in the description, of course. After that, well, feel free to just experiment a little bit. There is an in-game event that will move you into the endgame, which is of course tied to the story. Spoiler warning for Sengoku Rance. Every major clan has a sacred gourd, which holds within it a fraction of the Demon King Xavier, an incredibly evil demon lord who seeks to exterminate all mortal life on the continent, and would have done so if he hadn't been sealed away generations ago. Unfortunately, Oda's gourd breaks, and Xavier infects the body of Nobunaga Oda, gaining partial control of him. Over the course of the game, as you conquer the major clans of Japan, mysterious agents of the Demon King inevitably steal and break more gourds to make Xavier stronger. After 5 of these gourds have broken, you will be put into the endgame route. Xavier will take over Hanaji, and you will have to deal with him. After the incident at Hanaji Temple, 10 turns later, Xavier will emerge, conquering Shimazu clan, converting it into the demon army, and immediately declaring war on you. If there are any unconquered clans, barring the one-eyed house far to the north, Xavier will show up, slaughter every house leader there, and immediately absorb them into his army. As you fight the demons, Xavier will begin uncorking forbidden yokai and sicking them onto your army, but the one that matters most is this big ugly baby who grows in size when he cries. Xavier intends to sink Japan using this baby, and from here you have to conquer your way through demon territory, stop that yokai, and then engage Xavier in one final climactic battle. By the way, in that final battle, he's level 99 now. Hope you've been grinding out every dungeon, but if you beat Xavier and complete the game, you'll unlock new routes to play through, a free-for-all mode that basically functions like a Total War campaign, and you'll have access to selectable bonuses for a New Game Plus playthrough, provided you got some points after your last game. Oh yeah, since I mentioned them, you have a score that's tracked throughout the game. The only thing that detracts from it is every turn that passes. Every turn that passes, you will lose 1 point out of your starting 60-point score. And there's a bunch of things that help you increase the score as well. There's general skills that you can get that will just give you 2 points at the end of the game. Character clears will give you it. Completing certain quest lines throughout the game as well. These will all boost your score. Forewarning, you're not going to end up with many points after your first playthrough, so don't stress this too much either. Hell, if you go to the special menu in the game, they even tell you to not worry about it since you're not going to get much on your first playthrough. And these points, of course, are used to unlock all sorts of bonuses for a New Game Plus, such as additional characters, additional routes, starting items, all sorts of crazy stuff. This game has more replayability than roughly 90% of modern games. It's actually pretty crazy. After telling you all of this, I'm sure you'll want to find a route of effective conquering for your first playthrough. Mind you, you won't have to conquer every clan in the game to win, but if you're gonna try, I'd recommend going like this: Ashikaga, Hara, Tokugawa, Miko Institute, Imagawa, Tenshi Sect, Iga, Tanagashima, Akashi, Asai Asakura, Uesuge, Hojo, Takeda, Mori. You could try to sweep up the emerging Takuga clan as well, most likely before or after you fight Mori. And as far as the One-Eyed clan far to the north, well, for your first playthrough, I recommend completely ignoring them, as they won't actually attack you at all. They'll happily stay in their two territories, and the demon army won't conquer them either, so you won't have to worry about attacks coming from that end. Also, don't stress it if the demon army comes up before you've conquered every clan. You're not going to be able to do a full playthrough of this game on your first go. It really does just move that quickly, even if you are prepared for the coming storm, as it were. Basically, you want to annihilate all the small, gourdless clans, and you want to try to carefully advance to the major ones. There's actually a lot of little triggers that you need to worry about that can speed up the game before you consent to doing so. For instance, if you go to war with Tanagashima, Mori clan will eventually destroy Akashi clan, and vice versa if you go to war with Akashi. The same thing will happen if you declare war on either Uesuge or Hojo, with Takeda clan destroying one or the other. So a lot of time you might have to do the unwise thing of fighting on two fronts at once, but defending your territories is actually pretty easy thanks to how the battle system works. When you enter combat, you'll be presented with a battlefield that can host up to 6 units for each army, and as your units kill and lose men, this bar up here will move. You need to push this bar over this little arrow right here to be declared the victor. Simple enough, but at times an absolute fucking nightmare to win harder battles with. A lot of the time you can end up with battles that look like this, but you still lose. Clearly, I was defeated here. And you need to move as swiftly as possible through the game too, gaining more territory so you can have more troops, dungeons, and access to more soldiers from conquered clans. So I will now dedicate the next bit of this video to giving you a crash course on who to recruit and some cheese to help you along your way. So now it's time for Porn Game Fat Pro Tips. A recurring segment, apparently. First off, use every Rance satisfaction bonus on summoning reinforcements from overseas. Every commander Rance gets from this is incredibly strong and very usable. Except maybe Kaname, but I mean, you can power her up later. Especially though, it's Zeth Commander Aruza, who hits like a dump truck, and has access to Accurate Shot, which hits every enemy on the field, cancels magical preparations, and subtracts 1 action fan from every enemy on the field too. Stack her with Uesuge Kenshin, a commander you should always recruit because of her absurdly high damage, stats, built-in commander charge, which is a 2-hitting assault on a target enemy unit, and her passive skill, Bishamontan's Blessing, which subtracts 1 action from every enemy on the field by default. Have fun with your 1 action to fight, AI. Another really good commander to abuse is Notori of the Miko Institute. She's a solid shooter, but where she shines is by having Miko Storm 2 by default, which, while it does require a channel that can be interrupted, chunks every enemy on the field for 30% of their total unit size, meaning she racks up thousands of kills a fight with 1 simple move. Want to know how to make these 3 even more busted? With a humble monk commander named Aburaku Dosan. Yes, I shit-talk the monks. This is the one exception. Now, truthfully, you do have to recruit 3 mediocre generals and use a satisfaction bonus to finally recruit her, but it's worth it because of one little skill called Convert Action. What's that exactly? Dosan gives up one of her action fans to an actually useful unit, meaning Kenshin can commander charge multiple times a battle. Same with Iruza, same with Notori's Miko Storm. Enjoy! Another fun skill to note is Assassinate, which can be learned by any ninja and the musketeer Yuzahara Yuzumi. This skill is a coin flip chance to instantly eliminate the targeted enemy commander. It's not a guarantee, but what is guaranteed is the assassination chance is predetermined. So if you start a fight, assassinate an enemy, and it doesn't work, just restart the battle and try someone else. You will eventually find someone it works on. Unfortunately, Assassinate also works on your commander, so be wary of that since the AI will use it on Rance any chance it gets, and if Rance's unit goes down and he dies on the battlefield, you will lose the game. Which, if Rance's unit goes down, pretty much 100% chance he dies too, just because the game fucking hates you. Oh yeah, fun note, generals can die in combat and you lose them for the rest of the game. So try to be cautious with your fights, and of course, occasionally be willing to let a general go if you have to. Unless they're broken, in which case, reload. In fact, never be afraid to reload your game constantly and try to get the most desirable result. The AI is cheating, why shouldn't you? There's a ton of other great generals too, people like Sonata Torin, Naoi AI, Mori Teru, and dozens of others. You'll definitely want to experiment experiment with recruiting these various generals and see who does the most work for you overall. I myself have many personal favorite ones, like Senhime. Honestly, I could go on all day about Sengoku Rance. I've sunk hundreds of hours into this game. I could go on about good generals to use, triggers to avoid, and more, but if I did, this video would be going on way longer. Hours, probably. I will be honest too, I've already cut a good bit of this script out. I've been trying to write a script for Sengoku Rance for roughly 2 years now. It was not easy trying to condense everything into one decent video, but here we are now, near the end. Sengoku Rance was a very surprising game for me. A young HadesManticore downloaded it for the prawns, with the wacky world building, cool characters, and genuinely fun tactical gameplay kept me coming back for more. Not to mention the huge amount of content available to you after completing one game. It's actually insane the amount of value I've gotten out of this one simple title. Also, I have to add that this game's soundtrack fucking rocks. Listen to how hard the Defending Your Territory song goes. Japan always does music really well, even for their porn games. It's weird, isn't it? If you're interested in playing this game now, Manga Gamer actually put out their own translation of the game, and you can pick it up for around $35. Or you can pirate it and use the fan translation. I can't tell you what to do, I'm not your father or anything. Anyways, as always though, I'm HadesManticore, and this here channel is CityStateManticore. Thanks so much for watching a review on a porn game that I enjoy. Enjoy explaining that to your friends when they look through your history. Leave a like and a comment, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.